live Zoom talk. Today, Warwick from Beware and myself from Self-Sufficient Homesteading and Gardening will be talking about organic fertilizer. And we've got a special guest with us today, Johan from GuanoBoost, and he's going to be telling us more about what GuanoBoost can do for your soil. And I've taken some time and read up on it as well, and it's quite intriguing. And for me, as an avid gardener, it's something that is that I want to try and that I will be trying very soon. Yes, Johan, welcome very much as our special guest. Thank you to everybody else that are on as well. Warwick, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya, and thanks everybody for joining us today. It's awesome to have you on a Friday, and it's usually quite a difficult day. You know, everybody wants to end the week, and it's traffic and it's school kids and all this sort of stuff. So thanks for joining us today, and we are looking at shifting our times perhaps to another day or even another time slot, so that we can get more people on rather than having people only be able to join us on the replays. But Johan, thanks for joining us, man. We're happy to have you guys. Where are you now?
I'm in Pretoria.
You're in Pretoria, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. So, you know, Tanya and I have been, you know, we've got our different tribes. I'm in beekeeping, and but I do a lot of greenie kind of reading and stuff like that goes in line with that. And Tanya, as you can see, she's involved in self-sufficient gardening and homesteading. Big, you know, both of us have got some cool tribes and lots of people involved in learning about how to live sustainably and self-sufficiently and keep bees and just help the environment lots. And when we saw you guys, what you guys are up to, and I'm going to leave it to you to tell us, we were like, yeah, we got to get in touch with you guys. Let's do this.
Brilliant.
So tell us about you guys. Tell us how the birds and the bees can help each other out. All make us lekker new food, you know?
I'll stick to the birds and you can stick to the bees, or at least you know, that's as far as my knowledge goes. It's about this wingspan of the birds. Warwick, again, thank you so much for having us. It's an honor. We believe in building these relationships to educate, you know, the tribes, and we're also building a tribe in the commercial farmer industry, but also in the consumer and avid gardener space. And we believe that there's a worldwide movement on its way, and I think it's pretty much evident through the media, the type of films that we see on Netflix, the recent film that even David Attenborough brought out, and it's our responsibility now to make sure that as much people get the information, the education, and the most of all, the awareness that we are doing something wrong and we need to change our ways in terms of how we're farming. So background is myself and Theo, we're partners. We've been friends for about 30 years. I spent time in Australia when I finished my studies. I lived in Oz for about 6 years. And my goal there was I was basically working away to come back to South Africa to buy my first farm. And during that, I mean, I grew up on a farm, and during that phase, I said, I mean, I don't want to do it the way everybody is doing it. I want to do it differently. And Theo at that stage was working in the Limpopo Valley and also, you know, developing farms for other farmers. And the long and the short is, at that stage, there was a massive movement. The regenerative farming movement already started in Australia, you know, back in 2005. It was already, there was a big awareness surrounding it. And I got really intrigued about it. And, you know, the one thing that I realized, and the one thing that's really important, is you can't just flick a switch. You know, this is a transition. You can't go from commercial industrial farming to a sustainable farming method that just by flicking a switch. You'll see your boots, to be honest. It's a 5 with increasing techniques. It's a 3 to 10 year process, but it has to start somewhere. And so we did a lot of research. You know, what products can we bring to the market that can give the farmer the head start in starting to farm more sustainably, firstly, but then also to start to climb that regenerative curve. And in researching that, you know, the best organic fertilizers come from the sea. You know, we see it in our kelps, we see it in our fish emulsions, etc. But The main fertilizer that's been around for centuries is a seabird guano. And we did a lot of investigation in terms of thereof, and the value in seabird guano lies in the unique diet of the bird, basically, because they eat everything that's from the sea. They get the kelp, they get the fish,
right.
the crustaceans with high calcium, there's high nitrogen, high phosphates, potassiums, and all the trace elements. And then it is in this product. But if you look at guano as a raw product, it's really expensive. It will never be feasible for a farmer to buy just the raw guano and spread it on your land and get results, firstly, but also to be feasible. So we worked on a process, and we developed GuanoBoost, which is essentially the liquid form of the solid GuanoBoost that we put through a process, which is our Kentucky guarded recipe. And
I like it. Colonel Guano, yeah.
And we've it started off as a hobby, to be honest, about 4 years ago. Last year we started marketing it in the Limpopo Valley, and this year we started to marketing it nationwide in South Africa. And the level of uptake that we're getting from the market is simply evident of the consumer and the commercial farmers' demand for more sustainable ways in doing farming. And we need, and again, we know we need to change our ways, and that's GuanoBoost essentially.
Brilliant, man. Yeah, I mean that's lekker. Thanks for that story. And I mean, where were you for the 6 years in Australia, if I can ask?
I lived in Perth, but I was working out in the outback, in proper bush country up north,
man.
On the northwest shelf,
The 10th province of South Africa, right?
Yeah, correct. Perth,
half of Victoria. Yeah, exactly. Half of South Africa lives there now.
Well, I've got a question already.
Exciting, man. Okay, shoot, Tanya, go for it.
Yes, as I said, I'm an avid organic gardener. I do trench gardening most of the time, and that is not viable for a big farmer to do, but for us small scale homesteaders, it is viable. And I do get some wonderful crops out of my trench gardens. And I think the secret to a trench garden is the environment that one creates within that trench, because we dig it out up to about hip length, and then we fill it up with different organic layers. And something that I read about GuanoBoost really interested me, because it's when you apply the GuanoBoost, it actually makes these nutrients in the soil available to the plant. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, look, I'm going to give a short step back. And essentially, at the turn of after World War II, when chemical fertilizers become widespread globally, everybody was told you need NPs and Ks, and we were basically just throwing the macro elements onto our soils, which in turn deteriorated the microbiology, and then all the nutrients got locked in the ground. Now, if we look at, I always say it's one circuit, it's two cogs rotating in a different way. When we do conventional industrial farming, we put fertilizers and we till, which kills the microbiology, which locks up the elements in the soil, and it's just a vicious circle. But
effectively you get a deterioration of the soil over time, don't you?
Yes, and that wheel just starts spinning faster and faster. Yeah. Now we can start to slow. Yeah, we can start to slow down the movement of that cog by not tilling, or by starting to introduce organic matter, by using organic fertilizer. We slow the move of that cog until it stops, and then we can start to change the directions, and it starts to become regenerative. And so I'm going to give you one short example. People think that you need to throw vast amounts of nitrogen on your soils or on your plants for it to be able to grow, but we've shown that you don't need that amount. You need a balanced diet. And then we started to look, but why is the GuanoBoost so effective, to be honest? Because it's something that we stumbled upon almost. It's like, yes, we thought we'll bring a good product, but we didn't think it will have such good results. And then as we investigated it, we came up with a term called nutrient loading. And what we call nutrient loading, actually, GuanoBoost has the macro elements, all the micro elements, and then most of the trace elements that the plant needs, and
Brilliant.
also in the right ratios, but more importantly, it's in the right forms. Doesn't have to go through any further fermentation. So it's already gone through the bird's digestive system. And then we also put it further, we put it through another fermentation process. So when that product gets onto the soil and onto the plant, then it's instantly available to the plant. So it gives the plant an immediate boost.
Brilliant.
But then Dr. Elaine Ingham, for example, they call it nutrient cycling. We've said we want to call it nutrient loading, because essentially our product further contains almost 2% carbon, but then also fulvic acids and amino acids, and also some of the amino sugar nitrogens. And what the amino sugar nitrogens does is that feeds the microbiology in the soil. It instantly, it stimulates the growth of the micropopulation in your soil, and that in turn releases the nutrients that's already there, but it just makes it available to the plant. So by bringing the soil back to life, and then also giving the plant that immediate boost is what we call nutrient loading.
Okay. Yeah, it's brilliant, man. I mean, and like you said earlier on, with all these shows that are coming out, the docies and stuff like that, documentaries that are coming out from Netflix and on YouTube and even Amazon Prime, you know, I've just recently watched Keep the Soil. In fact, it was one of the reasons why Tanya and I thought, let's look for a way to get somebody involved with us to talk to us about how we can better soil, you know, for both
Absolutely.
of our tribes. And I was just blown away by by what was, you know, shown in there, and how so much carbon is actually locked up in the soil, and so much of the arable land is becoming arid. I mean, and then when you combine what David Attenborough is saying is we've lost something like 30% of the world's arable land over the last 50 years. I mean, that's just
more important than the topsoil.
Of the topsoil, I mean, yeah. Arable land. So, and of that arable land, a large portion of that is being used to essentially create food for animals, rather than food, you know, potentially food for us. But anyway, the beauty. So tell us now, what do you guys? Where are you finding, like, what crops are your top 5 crops? I saw on your website you guys you had I think is it Theo that was involved with tomatoes. Do you want to talk a little bit about his results?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Look, that's probably at the genesis of our business. You know, we started we created the product and then started to marketing it in the Limpopo Valley. Now, the Limpopo Valley is mostly vegetables. It's extremely favorable, you know, growing conditions, really hot, and then you get a lot of water from the Limpopo, not the best soils. Yeah, but it's almost semi-desert, to be honest. It's the tail end of the Kalahari, so you don't have very rich soils, but very rich water and in terms of the river, and then a lot of heat units. So, you know, firstly I want to say is, you know, it's not an all-round fertilizer. You're not going to just move away from your conventional system, use GuanoBoost and expect the best yields. As you build up your soils, of course, and you unlock a lot of the nutrients in there, you will be able to use it. Now, but a lot of the farmers, and this is one specific farmer, started to use it on his tomatoes. So he's got about 150 hectares of market tomatoes, and he was yielding on average between 80 and 90 tons a hectare, with a Brix level at the most, you know, 5.5. You know, that's literally got between 3.5 and 5.5 in terms of his Brix. And they started using GuanoBoost together, of course, with a range of other products, which was always consistent. The only thing they changed was the introduction of GuanoBoost.
Yeah. So that's how you can tell that there was a massive difference.
An impact, yeah.
Because of the introduction of GuanoBoost,
Yeah, we often get, you know, the objections from some clients and competition to say, yes, but it wasn't an empirical trial. So yes, you're correct, but you can reasonably assume that the impact was due to X.
Exactly. So, the same thing happens, by the way, with the beekeeping and pollination. We've got exactly the same issues as you do in terms of that, with competition to increasing yield, for example. And I don't find it being a competition. You know, it's not a competition between something like fertilizer and beekeeping. They can work together. They're mutually beneficial, right?
Synergy.
So it's synergy, exactly what we're trying to do between our tribes is, and for the general population, increase food security, etc., and output. and reduce the amount of damage and pollution and bad toxic, fertilizers being put out there, and or all this extra stuff like glyphosate that's being sprayed and whatever, so that people are perceived to have to use that stuff in order to increase yields. When actually all they need to do is use stuff like GuanoBoost and bees, and almost instantly you could probably actually across the board go from actually a minimum of what I've read on your guys' website and what results I think you're going to still share with us. Between GuanoBoost and including bees, you could probably go from at least a 30% increase to about 300% increase, which just blew my mind. Between what I know about the beekeeping pollination results and what you guys are being able to produce there, and you're going to share with us in a short while, it just blew my mind. So please carry on. Tell us. So he's 150 hectares.
Yeah, so basically he was taking off about between 80 and 90 tons a hectare, which is quite good.
Sure,
but more importantly, it was the bricks level, the quality of your fruit.
Right.
So when he started using GuanoBoost, he did it as a foliar and a drip feed at the roots. It went up to between 120 and 130 tons a hectare.
Yeah.
Now,
so we're talking 30%.
Now, it's not so much that the plant was carrying more fruit. It was the plant was producing for longer. Okay, so at least another
happier
6 weeks.
And healthier.
So usually between 6 and 8 months, the plants produced almost 10 months during the year.
Sure.
Beautiful. So now, right, so the beauty about that, the farmer gets more food, right? The plants are healthier overall, and I'm pretty sure the soil, from what I've researched about your GuanoBoost, is going to be better as well for next season too. But with pollinators, they get more access to nectar and pollen for longer, right? Because presumably there's going to be a longer flowering period as well, in order to
especially in Limpopo.
Yes.
Because in Limpopo, there's not a lot of food for the bees in winter months.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
And then basically the fun part of the story is basically we send it to the weighbridge. So basically they put their tomatoes on the weighbridge, and then when they get to Polokwane, there's market agents there, and they basically test the bricks.
Yeah.
And then they will phone the market to say, this is the freight, it's X amount of tons, and these are the bricks results. So you can invoice for the load.
Is the price, right? And this is the price for that.
Because you get paid up to 5.5. It fluctuates. Below 3.5, the market doesn't want it. Above 5.5, you don't get more money. But essentially, every single test they did was above 5.5. So much so that the market said, no, they think they're bribing the person doing the meters. They send somebody out to come and test to check that they're actually reading it correctly, and brought a new meter. And
that's exceptional, right? I mean, what a testimonial, right? Beautiful. What an outcome. All right, so that's tomatoes. What else can you tell us? What other? I'm interested. So I'd like to ask you about. We try to get in time to see if you could get hold of one of your almond growers. Now, okay, bees can affect tomatoes, but it's on a very small scale. It's probably only about a 10 to 15% difference, right? Because the tomatoes are self-pollinating anyways. But you still get an increase, which is awesome. But almonds, you talk about almonds on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about the almonds a little bit more? Because bees and almonds are like best buddies. They actually can't work without each other. And I know there's a growing demand that you might be able to elaborate on. Not a growing demand, there's a growing interest in South Africa for growing almonds. Because currently I think 90% of the almonds are grown in California. Some now in Australia, where you were, and then South Africa is becoming a player as well. If I'm not mistaken, in Western Cape, right?
Oh, very little in Western Cape. Yeah. Look, more in terms of pecans and max to date. But I mean, when I speak about almonds, it's not. It's pretty much down in the Western Cape in the dry summers.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a bit away from the area that you guys are operating in at the moment.
Definitely. So, well, we're operating countrywide, but I can give you this one testimonial. One of my agents, his name is George Nell, and George is also, he used to be very involved with the farmers Skuman Boerdery and Skoonby and a few others up north, and he's a very experienced agronomist and horticulturist. So he's been down the road of conventional fertilizers, and he's they've basically established a farm in Maatjies River. It's close to Oudtshoorn in the Karoo.
Okay.
And they've just settled about 60 hectares of almonds.
Wow,
and
great. Okay.
Essentially, yeah, and I'll send some pictures to you guys in terms of what the farm looks like. It's on 18 months, and the plants is the trees is already starting to carry nuts. So a great achievement.
Wow.
The product that he's using is we're developing a further product now, which we call GuanoBoost Ultra, and I've actually developed it together with George because it was he used this product on those almonds, and it brought amazing results. So I can't say in terms of tonnages or an empirical result, but on 18 months, they're already carrying almonds.
That's incredible.
So that is an incredible. And that product is a combination of GuanoBoost, and then we bring wood vinegar in, which is also, again, a carbon with a lot of amino acids. And then we also introduced a kelp product that's 100% organic, and that's got a lot of growth stimulants. So this product will essentially be a plant nutrient mix, a soil conditioner, and a plant growth regulator in one, and it's 100% organic. And we just see the results on it. It's extremely effective. And that's what those almonds received.
That is amazing. I can't wait. Yeah, I think there's a lot of synergy between bees and you guys. And actually, I think it's something we need to maybe chat about at a separate stage, Johan.
Definitely.
How we could actually see if we can't team up, and because your customers are the same people that would need bees. So
definitely.
Yeah, man, that'd be fantastic. But I mean, so we talk about tomatoes. What other are you guys? Do you have to spray? Can you talk a little bit about the application? Then you talked about some of the application is direct, and then what else happens?
So basically, the GuanoBoost is 100% liquid. Okay, so we basically we do the mix. The fabrication process is about 4 weeks, and then we let it settle completely for the solids to completely settle down. We pump it out. We put it through a 130 micron filter, so there's no solids in it. It's completely dissolved. It wouldn't separate. There's no live microbes in it, so it won't bloat. It won't separate. You can keep it in the sun for 2 years, and it will still be effective.
Okay.
Now, so basically, we see great results when you do it as drip irrigation. Dry open land farmers can put it through their planter. So basically, with a no-till planter, you put some fertilizer in the trench as you're planting them. You can use it as a foliar feed. You can we even use it as in the concentrate form. You just put a cup at the base of a tree.
Okay.
For example, I've got a farmer in Pongola. He's just settled a macadamia orchard, and he was struggling with Phytophthora. Now we know that's a root disease that plants easily get, especially that he gets bushbuck into his fields, and then the bushbuck damages the bark on the tree, and then Phytophthora comes in. And now he's basically gone and he's put 140 mils of the clean concentrate at the base of the tree. Now, trees that hasn't even bloomed in the last 2 years, it's all of a sudden they are just flushing and blooming, and even recovering from the Phytophthora. Now again, we're getting a lot of comments from people saying it's impossible for it to cure Phytophthora. I said, well, I can't say that it's not curing it or not, but instantly you've got a healthier, happier plant.
Yeah.
And which is taking better care of itself, and maybe it's just solved. It's got a better immune system to fight that disease.
Well, maybe what's also happening is, like you said, the GuanoBoost is servicing and repairing and regenerating the microbes, essentially the soil microbes, and the microbes are battling and tackling the
good point.
That's probably what's happening. But if it wasn't for your GuanoBoost, that it wouldn't be possible. You see?
Exactly.
So it talks to me a lot about how our own biome works in our gut.
Yes.
I think I like to, from watching Kiss the Soil rather, and a number of other shows that I've seen online around glyphosate, for example, and the use of Roundup. There's the other name for it. It's like, man, amount of damage and stuff, amongst other things that a lot of farmers commercially are using. It's no wonder the plants are and the soil is dying really. And our food, that all goes into our food, right? So not only are you also giving the soil a better chance of surviving and recovering, but you're giving us more food, which is phenomenal, and we're getting a better, healthier food as well. You know, one that's not tainted by, you know, nasty chemicals and stuff that's actually like really actually toxic to our own biome in our gut. And therefore, if the soil is healthier, guess what? When we eat that produce of that soil, we're going to be healthier too. So it's like a win-win-win. And then on top of that, you've got the bees and the other pollinators coming in. They're not getting nailed by the you know, hopefully not getting damaged or injured or poisoned as well by things like pesticides and herb, you know, and the insecticides, because the guys are getting a better yield because they're using GuanoBoost. You know what I mean? Because the soil's better, the plants are doing better, they're getting a better yield. They feel like they don't have to use insecticides and pesticides anymore. It's a win-win-win, you know?
Absolutely.
Which is phenomenal.
Joanna, I want to ask another question with the application. In what instances do you use the foliar application, and in what do you put it in the dripper? So is there like a differentiation that you make?
Not really, to be honest. It's really up to the farmer, you know, and so what's the easiest to use. When a farmer does have drip irrigation, yes, put it through the drip, because then you don't have to go through with in your open fields and where you've got pivots. Then the farmers is going to go through the field with a tractor and a boom spray. And then they put it in the boom spray and they use it in that way. If you don't have either of them, you can put it through the irrigation as a vertigation method.
Lovely.
Okay.
On that note, okay, sure. Fire away.
Okay. Tomorrow is the 24th of October, and it also happens to be the ideal day to plant your giant pumpkin seeds for the giant pumpkin seed competition. So I've got one pip and one chance here. I've been trying to grow giant pumpkins for 3 years, and my largest was 100 and something kilograms. And I would love to be able to grow the one that wins how much was the prize, Emil, last season? It was a huge prize. I think it was 100 and something thousand rands. I would love to win that money. So please tell me, how would GuanoBoost help the giant pumpkin seed growers?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I know my brother also wants to enter the competition for the giant pumpkin competition.
That is competition.
Serious competition.
Yeah, so I mean, again, in terms of growing a massive pumpkin like that, you just imagine how much nutrients the plant will actually take out of the soil to be able to feed a monster fruit that's almost 200 or 150 kgs.
And that's the size of a person, you know.
So I mean, if I stand back from it and I look at it in terms of what strategy I will form, is you want your soil to be as healthy as possible. You want your plant to get as much of the nutrients out of the soil rather than feeding it, chemical fertilizers to be able to grow that fruit. Now GuanoBoost in itself, if you look at it as a product, you know, it's got almost, I wouldn't say negligible, but the potassium is just over 1.5 grams per kilogram. So it's not astronomical sizes. If you think how much potassium you have in your top 6 inches of your soil, all the potassium that you need to do the fruit development of that pumpkin is actually in the soil. So I would rather say you need to use the GuanoBoost to get very good vegetative growth, ensure you've got a healthy plant, but more than that, make sure you plant it in extremely fertile living soil, and then it will get whatever it needs. Like a trench.
Yeah, perfect.
It will get whatever it needs out of that, and give it a boost with the GuanoBoost. Whenever you see, you know, there might be a very, very warm spells, you can give it a GuanoBoost. It will cope better with the heat stress or cold stress. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah. So
thank you very much,
man. That's awesome. I got 2 questions for you based on that. One is that recently we had a guest speaker on it from Botswana about aquaponics. is there a use? Is there potential for GuanoBoost in that kind of system, or hydroponics at least? Because aquaponics, it might affect the fish, right? But hydroponics, there's no fish involved. What have you guys got some ideas on that?
Well, aquaponics, of course, I wouldn't recommend, because it will definitely affect the
hydroponics
fish.
would be better, yeah.
But on the hydroponics, I haven't tried it yet. We do have quite a few clients that's been asking us about the effectiveness of it in hydroponics. Now, again, what's really important when you look at hydroponics, as much as I know as a layman, is your EC is really important, and your pH is really important to ensure that your plant can absorb the nutrients that it needs within a certain pH range and the electrical conductivity. Now, if our product is diluted 1 to 20, and this is what we recommend. So basically, our ideal recommendation is 25 liters on 500 liters of water per hectare. The reason for that is because then our EC is optimal for the plant to absorb it. Right. So at the right quantities, because our pH is slightly high, it's at 8.5. But at the dilution of 1 to 20, if you have a neutral water, your pH will only be 7.55. So there won't be any effect, and the nutrients is instantly available to the plant. So I'm sure we will have you can use it to great success in the hydroponic system.
Okay, lekker. Yeah, that's great, because as I say, we even though we spoke about aquaponics, I mean, we did talk a bit about hydroponics too, with taking the fish out of the system. But yeah, so that's phenomenal. What was my other question? My other question's gone.
You were asking earlier about other crops that we've had successes on.
Yeah,
and so strawberries.
I was gonna. Okay, so I'm gonna just fire off a quick bunch that I did yesterday off of your guys' website that I found. So I know almonds you've mentioned are seemingly like a new market for you guys, and
yes,
it benefit tremendously, and it's also a great market for South Africa. It's a great crop for people to start growing. Not necessarily where you guys are quite. You've got an agent, so it's not near your head office, but that's fine. Strawberries good, lucerne I saw, and then onions, citrus, and peppers, right? Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to ask you. It just reminded me. With the peppers, there was a story I saw about one of your guys' customers. He showed he showed 2 different sets of peppers, I think it was, right? And this is talking like green peppers, red peppers, that kind of thing, like sweet peppers, not chili peppers. And he was showing an example of a field that had GuanoBoost or Guano. I don't know if it's GuanoBoost. It was one of the other products. Maybe you can let me know. You can tell us. But he showed us where the one part of the field had got treatment from you guys, and the other part didn't. And I think it went through a cold front. The same farm went through a cold front. And on the one side, it was like the one that didn't get treated was untreated. All the leaves, it looked like everything was popped, and it was all like looked like it had taken some quite a bit of damage from the actual cold front that came along, and they weren't producing any fruit or any peppers, right? But then he showed the photo of the part of the farm that had been treated, and it was like chalk and cheese, man. The one stuff looked all dead and sort of damaged, and your guys' side was like full of life and producing fruit or peppers,
just continuing on.
Yeah, I was blown away, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. That's amazing.
And I can say that I've seen a lot of other testimonials on GuanoBoost in a similar way, where it shows before GuanoBoost and after GuanoBoost, and like 10 days ago before when GuanoBoost was started, and 10 days after, and the results are amazing. And I know Tinus Willemse. They grow strawberries, and they put a strawberry the other day onto Facebook that weighed 45 grams, one strawberry. That's really good.
Yeah. Do you know him?
I know him, yes.
Okay.
So I tried to get him on the call, but he's technologically not there we go. So yes, he was battling a bit. So but definitely he sings the praises of GuanoBoost, and he says that has made the difference in their farming. So I'm quite excited to try the product myself, and I'm excited that we can heal our soils, change it, make a difference. And it will essentially make a difference into my family's lives, because we are trying to be self-sustainable and self-sufficient. We try and plant everything that we eat, and so it will just make such a huge difference, because the vegetables and the fruits that we will be consuming will be so much healthier. Not that we use pesticides and all these things at the moment, but it will just be, I mean, if I eat the healthiest food I can, my body is going to be the healthiest it can be. If I just eat whatever I can find, then it's not going to be the same. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Hey. So, I mean, yeah, if we have a quick look at those, the strawberries, man, likewise, I mean, I looked up your guys stuff, but then I also found my way to a bunch of other resources across the world. And I was like, okay, interesting. You know, in Japan, they grow them indoors, right? So I'm not sure what the guys are doing. How does Tennis grow his?
That's completely outdoors, not even in tunnels.
All outdoors, eh?
Yeah.
So these guys in Japan, it was interesting. Just as a side, I mean, obviously they're gonna, you know, they would benefit from GuanoBoost just as much. But also with the bees, what was amazing was that they actually used like six frame boxes, which are smaller catch boxes, right? And that allows like up to 10,000 bees, only about up to 10,000 bees to pollinate inside these tunnels. Okay. And what was amazing is that if the bees, but we're using the bees, you can increase their fruit set, which is what you were talking about earlier on, Tanya, getting a 45 gram strawberry, right? This is now without GuanoBoost. Okay, so you must imagine with GuanoBoost you're going to get an additional yield as well. Okay, these guys were able to get an extra 15% uptake or yield on their fruit, on the strawberries, and a better fruit set. So by the time, because what can happen is that I don't know if you guys are aware, but strawberries have got like 6 petals, if you like, and if they don't evenly get pollinated, then you get a deformed strawberry, one that can't be sold in the market, right? So if they don't get visited properly by enough pollinators or pollinated by hand properly, you get a deformed crop, and then that's it. It's over. All of that, they usually throw that stuff away, unfortunately, which I think is a complete waste as well. Somebody should do a documentary on how much food gets wasted. But anyway, yeah, it's a massive opportunity in America and in Japan, and I'm thinking South Africa as well. Anybody who's growing strawberries, really, to use GuanoBoost and bees together. You can just imagine you're going to get, I mean, what's kind of like results that you guys have found, Jan, with GuanoBoost? Because it means 50% from bees. How much would you guys more or less say you found with strawberries?
I don't have any empirical results on it, especially on this, but I would say at least 10%, 10 to 15%.
Yeah, cool. So now we're looking at a 25% increase in your yield, which is phenomenal, right? Plus, of course, your yield, your soils is going to be generated, which is perfect.
And it's all natural. It's all
exactly.
Done
it's 100% organic, man. Yeah.
Nothing invasive to this.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's if I can add on that, you know, it's really what we see, especially on a lot of our berry farmers, strawberries, blueberries, we've got one big client in the Lowveld close to the Kruger Park is doing blueberries, and they haven't been able to tell me, Johan, we have X amount more yield now.
Okay.
But what is so evident every time we talk to them is like, we can't believe how healthy our plants look. You know, the fruits are healthy, they are glowing. We're not seeing rot spots on the fruits. The flowering is more consistent. It's just a healthier plant, less pests, less requirement for pesticides, and that's where the benefits come in. And that is enough to give any farmer a reason to use the product.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Already, you know, the increased yield is a bonus.
Yeah. So I mean, on strawberries, for example, you get a 75% bee factor, right? In other words, there's only 25% of the pollination is done by other pollinators. So you can imagine if you've got bees and GuanoBoost together, as I said earlier on, you know, you're going to just score, man, big time. And then blueberries is another one, because I consulted on a project in the Eastern Cape. It was the second biggest blueberry farm in the country at the time. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. And we weren't talking to them about fertilizer at the time, but it's certainly something you should look into. Get involved with the Eastern Cape guy as well. GuanoBoost, but because they were using fertilizer down there and other pesticides until we came along and said, listen, guys, if you want to get organic, you got to go, you can't, and you want to have bees on the property, you can't use the stuff that you're using now, all this chemical stuff, you know. So you're going to kill the bees, and you're not only going to kill the bees, but you're also getting a substandard finished product, you know, with the berries. And so not only the beauty about this, man, is that I know that GuanoBoost is going to boost the plant itself. Are these guys bag growing? Are they growing in bag?
No. Well, the blueberries was in the soil.
In the soil. Okay, not even better, right? So that's perfect. These guys in the Eastern Cape are growing in bags, and they were losing. You know, they had colonies on the property, and they were losing colonies. And I said to them, listen, I'm going to charge you double the normal price to replace these things if you kill my bees. And the guy's like, yeah, okay. And anyway, they too also. So not only GuanoBoost would boost the plant itself and the actual root system, right, and the soil.
Yes.
Which is going to increase the yield anyway. You know, of course, it's going to do that.
And it's going to protect
a healthier plant. Exactly. So now that we've got the plant in its prime, okay, it's healthiest. When that plant blooms, right, what's going to happen is that those bees come along, and again with the bees, it's a high bee factor. So pollinators on blueberries, there's not that many there's not much competition. There's not in South Africa anyway. Bumblebees are competition in America, but not in South Africa. We don't have bumblebees in South Africa. So the bees are a big bee factor, a pollination factor involved there. So healthier plant, healthier bees, and now what's going to happen is that they're going to get a better yield from you guys and the bees, and they're going to get a better fruit set as well, and they're going to get a higher quality out of that. So what ends up happening is that on average, that blueberry guy, same goes with the strawberries. What ends up happening here is that these guys go not only from a base amount of yield, right? They're gonna get a higher choice grade when they go to market, like you were talking about earlier on with the tomatoes.
Yeah.
So now these oaks are going to export high grade, first grade, where before they may have only had about 10 or 15% of their crop yielding at that level. Now they're going to get about 40% yielding, if not more, yielding at that level. And that to a farmer, man, is worth millions in return on investment, you know. So between the two of us, I mean, it's like a no-brainer for a farmer in order to get involved with us, man. It's phenomenal. And then, of course, all of us benefit from the better end result, you know. So, okay, so tell us about, I'm also interested about lucerne and onions and the citrus. Tell us a little bit more about your guys' results out of those.
Okay, lucerne, of course, is a legume like soya. So getting amazing results on both soya and lucerne. Firstly, I mean, we've got one brilliant story with a farmer in Brits, Marinelle and her father. And they essentially, the SA standard lucerne was about 8 years old. So basically just ready to be taken out and replanted, but they didn't have the funds to do it. So they tried out GuanoBoost and literally went, and I'm not going to quote exactly the numbers now because I mix them up all the time. But essentially, in 4 applications of GuanoBoost, gone from 40 bales per hectare back to 140 bales per hectare.
Wow.
Okay, that was in 3 cuts.
Jeez.
So basically, they went from 40, I think it was, to 80, instantly doubling it.
Double it.
With 2 sprays. And then they did another spray, went up to 110, 120, did another spray up to 140, which meant they could keep their lucerne in.
Yeah.
And
but they went to seed, right?
Very profitable. Yeah.
And they went to seed.
Yes. And so basically, it just starts to spread. Then we've got another testimonial on lucerne. It was a farmer in the Eastern Free State. Essentially, he's got an SA standard pasture that's almost 20 years old. And again, it's not an empirical trial, but the guy said, look, I want to test it on my last cut for the season, just before winter. The previous year, he got 85 bales a hectare off on the last cut. So it's under irrigation. There's not much variables.
Yeah.
He did an application of GuanoBoost and he took off 120. Now, the last one is in Swartwater. We did a trial under pivot. So basically took a 15 hectare pivot, split it straight down the middle. Right. One side GuanoBoost, the other side none, and an extra 25% bales on it.
What was that on? On lucerne as well?
Yeah, also on lucerne. So it's, I've got I've got pictures literally where Lucerne had frost in the morning. Literally the ice was on the Lucerne, and then photos of the afternoon. Amazing results. I'm seeing there's a comment there just from one of our that work on garlic. I've got one client in Middelburg, Elmar. You know, he's actually from Gauteng, but then he farms mostly over weekends. He's got about 3 hectares of garlic, and he literally said he went down to the co-op and said, "What do I put on my garlic?" And the guy said, "Oh, geez, what's on the shelves here? Take this, this, and that, and put it on your garlic." And he paid a fortune for this. And this year, he only used GuanoBoost with a little bit of conventional when he planted. And he said he's never had bulbs like that, garlic bulbs. I mean, it's literally almost the size of my fist. You don't want them to be too big, but he said that's the best yield he's had so far. Literally, his pack house was so full, he had to create more space to start unpack it. So it works brilliantly on garlic.
That's so good to hear.
Tell me, Johan, I see Emil's asking you for home growers, small home growers, because homesteaders are also interested. So what is your packaging on your GuanoBoost, etc.? And is it available? Where is it available? How can we get hold of it?
Okay, great question. Thanks. Basically, we've got 2 target markets: our consumer market and our farmers. Any avid gardener. Okay, so basically the packaging sizes is a 25-liter drum and a 1,000-liter flow bin, and then we can even go better and we'll deliver it to the farm in a big 5,000-liter tanker. But 25 liters of GuanoBoost will last you basically a year if you're an avid home grower. 25-liter. But then we also have smaller packaging in 1 liters and 5 liters. Which we will be launching in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 months. In the meantime, when we started the business, we started a consumer product, which is called GrowBang. It's exactly the same product, 100% the same. It's just different branding. And you can buy that online. Essentially, you buy that at GrowBang. It's growbang.co.za. And you just buy it online and it gets delivered to your door. But if you want to buy a 25-liter, you just contact Odette, who's our sales manager, and she will sort it out for you. We've got agents across the country. We've got about 45 agents nationally, and we deliver it to your door if you want a 25-liter.
So that was, sorry, Johan, was that Grow and Bang, B-A-N-G?
Yeah.
Cool, thanks. I'll just put that on the chat.
So that will still be live for another few months. You can still buy GrowBang, and then we'll switch it completely over to GuanoBoost, and the consumer product will also be GuanoBoost. And then we'll start to get it on shelves like the co-ops and Builders Warehouse and whatever. But at this stage, it's available online in 1 liters, and if you want a 25-liter, we can deliver it to you as well.
Brilliant.
And the pricing on that is, if you want just on that is, if you buy a 25-liter, it's 35 Rand a liter. So it works out at 875 Rand for a 25-liter bin plus VAT. And when you buy a flow bin, which is 1,000 liters, it's 25 Rand 50 a liter, or 25,000 Rand 500 a flow bin.
Just to confirm, 875
excluding
for a 25-liter bucket, eh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Brilliant.
That will do a hectare, a single application of a hectare. So you can
that
work
covers
out
a lot of small growers. Yeah.
If you have 50, let's call it 50 square meters, that's 20 applications. So that'll last you a year on 50 to 100 squares.
Brilliant.
Oh, so you only have to apply how often? So just to get that straight. So for a home gardener, how often do you need to apply?
Well, it's how long is a piece of string? You know, it's really, you know, how healthy is your soil? What are you planting in? What are you growing? You know, we've got clients that's using it in their gardens, and it's like gospel. They do it once a fortnight. They spray their whole garden, and you see the results. I mean, everything is in bloom, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
It's not just for farmers, eh?
You can't apply too much. People just use them like flowering bed.
even for their,
yeah.
Or for their grass and all that, man, for their lawn.
Well, this grow bag is actually called lawn feel because
there we go.
Yeah, so we call it lawn feel because it's just, you can hear it growing when you spray it on your lawn.
Cool.
Well, I also just want to say, Jan, I'll still be speaking to you in Odette, and we want to try and make it available, if possible, through self-sufficient homesteading and gardening. So for our tribe leaders, we're also going to try and make it available for you in that way too, if that's okay. So we'll speak to you still about that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then, okay, so guys, let's open the floor. Johan, Tanya, let's open the floor for questions and see what the guys, I think a few people have had to go, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. They're going to catch up on the replay. But just a couple of welcomes. Graham, I see you there. Welcome. You've just finished our Beware course. Nice to see you.
And
Thanks
Robert,
for your testimonial. And there's Robert, yeah, regular, and Emil as well, and Jacques, Judy. So yeah, thanks. I recognize those guys' names. Andrew as well. Yeah, welcome, guys, and Odette. Yeah, questions, guys. Anybody got any questions that we haven't covered or something we haven't thought about yet? Anybody? Yeah,
Emil's got one.
Sure, go for it, Emil.
Hi there, guys. Sorry if I'm sound a bit blocked. We've been treated to a aerial application of Methamix this morning. So yeah, my sinuses are not happy. Johan, so if I've got 120 square meter veggie garden, and obviously I grow 20 different things. Can I just do a uniform application once every 2 weeks?
Yes, absolutely.
Would that be okay?
100% okay. That's exactly what we say. You know, people say, no, we need to have crop specific application rates. I say, no, we use 25 liters a hectare, diluted at 1 to 20. It's easy to use, and you just apply it. You can with a rucksack spray, you can drench the plant. You can put it down in your sprinklers or in your drip irrigation, whatever you want to, but it's uniform.
Okay, perfect. So it's a nice, easy product to use.
Yes.
Cool. Shot.
Anybody else got a question, guys? I can't actually see you, so if you're not sure how to do that, you can use the settings to raise your hand, and then we can answer your question, or type it up in the chat, and then we can, if you're a bit screen shy, that's also cool, and just type it up, and we'll answer your question from there. Graham, okay, I see you got one.
Yeah, sorry, folks. My question is specifically related to bees.
Yeah, go for it.
Just two questions. Do you believe that all beehives should face east? And secondly, how far apart would you recommend is the minimum distance you would put between hives, considering the queen's circuitous route?
Okay, so just quickly on that, yeah. So you got I ideally do face my hives to sunrise, okay, but it's not always going to be the best result because they, especially if you're considering wind factor in your area, there is a strong wind factor, and that's a headwind into your hive or a crosswind or whatever. It's not a good idea. But I would say yes, ideally it is a good idea to raise it northwest sunrise area towards the east, and then and leave it at that. But it also is important to raise them above the ground. If you can raise them above 1 meter, perfect. And then your second question is, I've used, I think what can be challenging is having the bees too close together. You're going to have drift. Okay, so that is a bit of a challenge. Even if you've marked them or colored the front of the box, whatever the case is, I've done some research on that. I used to use drawing pins that I thought used to enable the bees to identify their hive as the purple one or the pink one or the green one or whatever the case is. But since then, I've had a couple of people I know and trust in the industry come back and say they've tried this out and it actually doesn't work for our bees. I'm not sure if it'll work, if it doesn't work for all bees, but it doesn't seem to work for ours. Ours do tend to drift if they're very close to each other. But I've got hives that are probably only about 15 to 20 centimeters apart from each other. And that seems to be enough at this point. I've also got hives that are on a pallet and they are standing four on a pallet, but in facing opposite directions, so like a cross. Again, it's not ideal because two of them are going to be facing more or less north and east. The other two are going to be south and west. And you know, those oaks are just they're gonna miss out a little bit of time in the morning, but not by much, maybe half an hour production in the morning and the evening. Yeah. But what's also important, guys, is just when you're using GuanoBoost and bees together, or bees on their own, or whatever the case is, until you can use GuanoBoost. GuanoBees, what the hell? GuanoBoost, sorry. I got bees and guano in the brain, right? I'm like blown away at like.
We can call it GuanoBees.
GuanoBeast. And when you're using that stuff, right, it's gonna the placement of the hives is also important. Okay, inside a crop, inside the orchard itself or the field. Ideally, they shouldn't be. You should have them more spread out and not too together. So I usually place mine at least 100-150 meters apart from each other, and then there's usually only about 4 to 6 in one spot. And ideally, they should be placed on the outskirts of the orchard and not in the center. And the reason being is that bees efficiently like to not forage within the first 100 meters. Funny enough, 75 to 100 meters of the hive itself, but they do like to forage from there up to 750 and 1,250 meters radius. That's the efficient foraging space. Okay, so cool. Thanks. Good question, guys. Yeah. Thanks, Graham.
Well, thanks. And if I can just ask you, if I can just ask you on, I mean, the benefits of guano for fertilization has been known for decades and decades, but historically it was always mined off offshore islands and things where seabirds rest. Do you have a sustainable source for your guano, for the manufacture of your GuanoBoost? Because it's not a rapidly rehabilitating resource, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And a very good question. Thanks for that. Of course, a question that we get often and very frequent, and something that we had to cross as well. So firstly, I mean, the harvesting of guano in the whole Southern Africa is outlawed. It's against the law. Up until 2019 was the last year that guano was allowed to be harvested off the islands of Namibia. And there was contracts given out to public, and they could harvest it then off the islands every 3 years. So only once every 3 years. So then these contractors will go in and harvest it and then make it available to whatever client base they have. So at the moment, that's been stopped in Namibia, and it's completely stopped in South Africa. Just out of interest sake, your best quality guano always sits on your west coast of your continents, like Western Australia, Western Africa, Western parts of America. And it's pretty much because you've got very little rain there, and then little nutrients get leached back into the water. Okay, so to answer your question, in Namibia, around the previous half of the previous century, they built platforms in the ocean. It's between 1 and 2 hectare big platforms, wooden platforms, and there's very little waves. So on these platforms, the birds don't nest and they don't breed there. It's essentially just a pit stop between their breeding grounds and their feeding grounds. So it's essentially like an ultra city. They stop there, do their business, fuel up, have a rest, and stretch their legs, and then they go on again. And then these platforms only get harvested once a year to ensure that you get all the nutrients from a full year's cycle in, because the birds will eat different things during the year. So yes, it is a sustainable source in the fact that the platforms are there, but it's not a growing supply. And we are investigating other sources as well, but that's our current source at the moment.
Okay, great. So it's like Bitcoin, there's only a limited amount at this stage. So the less it gets, the more valuable it gets. So yes.
A lot of demand. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Is there any other questions from anyone? No? Any questions?
Great. Yeah, if I can just add it quickly to some of the, I mean, on the research and the, reading up on what you guys show on your guys' website, Johan. I mean, I can just see, dude, the synergy between, the strawberry growth, the lucerne, the onion, the citrus, and the peppers alone. Just those are the ones that you see, that you have on your website. Aside from the ones that like blueberries you were mentioning earlier on. I mean, majority of these, aside from peppers, citrus, for example, 40% of the pollination is done by bees, right? Honeybees, and 95% of the pollination on onion seeds, onions going to seed, is done by bees. And lucerne, it's 90% to seed, right? Strawberry 75 to fruit, and then almonds is 95% is done by honeybees. So you can imagine if the two of us combine forces, yeah, and we can get, on one hand, we're getting the GuanoBoost to the plants themselves and into the soil, and so it's almost sort of below ground soil, on plant level and below ground level, and then we get the bees involved, and they're the ones who are going in at above ground level, so to speak. I mean, dude, we've got the potential of doing 30 to 300% increase here. I worked it out. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? How any farmer could turn around and say they wouldn't want to have GuanoBoost for their soil and for the plant health, and bees for the pollination itself, right? I mean, it's just phenomenal. And those are just some of the ones that I've researched because they were on your guys' website, of testimonials and stuff. Phenomenal. So
yeah,
thanks, man.
Yeah, closing on that as well is, it's like, I often get the question, does it work on this?
Yeah.
If it's a plant, if it absorbs nutrients and it goes through the process of photosynthesis, then it works.
Yeah. If it's in the soil, it's going to work.
It'll work.
If it needs soil, it's going to work.
Exactly.
Although, having said that, also for the hydroponics, I mean, that's not necessarily in soil, but I'm sure that
if it uses
taking up nutrients, it's going to.
If it uses nutrients, if it takes carbon from the atmosphere and puts it into sugars and starches, then it will work.
That's it. Beautiful.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I love it. So where to from here? You guys are a South African-based business?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the aim for the next 3 to 5 years? Give it to us. Well within reason, obviously. Don't give away your whole plan, but you know what I mean. We want to know about what's happening with GuanoBoost.
Well, we want to
from here.
We believe there's a growing market, and we believe there's a growing market firstly, but then there's at least a 10% of the market is going to move towards some level of regenerative techniques, and we want to capitalize on that opportunity, not only because of the financial benefit or for the fact that we're a business, but because we are really driven and passionate about, playing a part in changing the ways and being a part of solving the crisis that we're facing in terms of our soil degeneration, globally.
Love it.
I've been a construction professional for 20 years, and I've stepped into this business full time this year, and I'm living out my passion now. So it's to grow it now and to grow it into a big national company, and make a difference. That's the vision.
What a beautiful vision. And
I love it. Yeah, absolutely love it.
I support you all the way.
That's one of the reasons why we had to have you on our talk, man, on our Synergy talk. So, Johan, thanks for joining us. It's been
Thank you very much for having us.
And an honor to chat with you and to hear about your guys' story. And we look forward to supporting you guys as we go forward. We're going to be able to put the replays on our website. We're going to have this stuff on YouTube, and we're going to be emailing that all out to subscribers. And long may the soil regenerate, man, and produce.
And we're just starting a podcast as well, in terms of our business, what we'll call the Higher Yields Through Regenerative Practices podcast, which will start in the next 4 weeks. So we'll be glad to have you as our guests on that podcast again.
Okay, that'll be brilliant.
We can get the message out even further.
Yeah, I love it.
Brendan's got a question, mate.
Oh yeah, Brendan. I just saw the chat. Thanks for that, Graham.
Hi there, Warwick. I'm a GuanoBoost agent on the KZN Coast.
Oh, brilliant. Welcome.
Hi, Johan. And thanks so much. Been extremely interesting. I was at a farmer a couple of weeks ago who's a macadamia nut farmer near Impangeni. And he's really gone full on with his bee situation. He had beehives as far as I could see, sort of 10 meters up, spaced around his property. Right. He also, and when I was there, he was planting bee basil, just to encourage more bees to come to this area, especially as the Macs weren't flowering yet, just to encourage them to come onto his property. And then he had a few old buildings on the property that, and he had gotten rid of a few of them, but he's kept a few and created what he called bee hotels. And he made holes in the walls and then put different shapes and colors around the different holes to encourage the bees to go into a specific hole, to a specific hive, and then also put up burglar guards on the windows. So took the windows up, put burglar guards up, and security gates on the doors, so nothing else can get in there.
Yeah,
and I mean the bees were eating unbelievable amounts of the food pollen that he had put down. The pollen.
Oh yeah, the food.
And it was incredible to see that, and just to see how much effort and time he puts into knowing how important the bees are.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Other pollinators too, because the bee hotel serves for the other pollinators, the loners that don't have a swarm or a hive. So
solitary bees. Yeah, all the solid. So I mean, there's over 20,000 bee species now in the world. I actually met the girl. She was a teenager, about 15, in 2013 when I was in Ukraine at a bee conference there. And she had the honor of actually stepping up on stage and actually saying, she was honored and able to announce to the moratorium of people that were standing, sitting and standing in the hall there, a couple of thousand people, where she announced that she discovered the 20,000th bee species officially discovered in Indonesia. So yeah, man, I mean, it's not just honeybees, but yeah, the honeybees are responsible for a lot of on the max, for example, I think it's quite low. It's probably about 30 or 40% bee factor contribution. But I've got bees on max myself in Nelspruit. So I've got bees on max and a lemon. So they're between a lemon orchard and a macadamia orchard. And the beauty about that mix is that, and maybe Yuan, we must talk to that farmer. To get all of your GuanoBoost, okay? It's Yuan Nell in Nelspruit. Anyway, so we had bees on the max, and we had bees going to his lemon orchard, which is just next door. And the beauty about that is that they forage like mad on the max when the max come along. And he's got two varieties there that I know of, and one flowers earlier than the other one. So there's two flowerings essentially. And then when those aren't flowering, the lemons are flowering all year round. So it's like you say, it's a
permanent food source.
The lemons are permanent, yeah, for sure. But his yield also, just on the bees alone on the max, and the lemons, funny enough, it was an indirect benefit for him on the lemons because the bees were actually on his macadamia orchard. But because they could get to his lemon orchard, he said to me, those lemons had been standing idle for about 3 years. And only that year, since we started talking to him about putting bees on his property, did he start re-farming and prepping his lemons. And he said that's the season that he had on the lemons. It's been the best season he ever had in the previous years that he'd been keeping the lemons with the bees there. But with his macadamians, he said he had a bumper crop. He'd normally get like about a 15 or 20% take on his of the kernels on the strings, and with the bees there, he was getting an extra 10 nuts on average. Uptake on the kernel on whatever those stringy things are called on the max. So,
because macadamias are quite low protein for bees, aren't they?
They are. They can get distracted by other
sources.
Other blossoms. So it is important to not have too many distractions around when they're flowering. But that's why I placed them on his macadamian side and not in the lemon, because otherwise they would have never actually made it to the macadamians.
Yeah. Just a comment for Johan. He was saying he was going to produce an ultra GuanoBoost by adding vinegar. I don't know how good that is, because I use vinegar. It is the best killer of weeds that are growing in paving. If you've got weeds that come up in brickwork or paving, vinegar, if you put it on them, nothing will ever grow there again.
Yeah,
it's actually it's wood vinegar. I don't know if you've heard of wood vinegar.
No, I haven't actually. I know apple cider, I know spirit vinegar.
So wood vinegar is essentially a byproduct of it's a carbon-based, plant-based produce that you get from biochar development. Okay, so it's a very dark. I've actually got a bit. Yeah, let me just get it quickly and show you.
Yeah, grab it.
So here's this is the packet of it. It's a really dark fluid. It's got about in this form as it is, it's got 30% carbon and almost it's very high, 300 grams per kilogram natural acids. So it's a plant-based organic soil conditioner that's very rich in natural acids and carbon. So brilliant product. Yeah,
excellent. Okay,
that's great.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks, Brendan, for sharing that, man. That sounds awesome. I mean, that guy's going to have a bump of issues. I don't think he's going to know what to do with it. He's going to go nuts, literally over his nuts, because he's going to get GuanoBoost, the yield, increasing yield from GuanoBoost, and on top of that, he's going to get from the bees. This guy's going to be like, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be difficult for you to sell more GuanoBoost in that area, in Pangeni. And yeah, he's right to actually put the stuff behind bars and stuff like that, because I know KZN is a little bit high on the theft list and vandalism list for beekeepers anyway, which is a little bit of a risk for us as beekeepers. Not a little, it's quite a high risk in South Africa actually at this point, because the demand of local honey is becoming quite significant. And it's capital intensive, so there are risks where guys are experiencing theft of their hives, the entire hive. Somebody pulls up with a vehicle and they take their hives overnight and just drive away with them. But yeah, man, that's exciting stuff. So yeah, I mean, the macadamians are definitely something that you can benefit. They get about a 10 to 15% increase in yield from up to potentially 25% I found in Australia. Australian research when you involve bees. But then what would you guys say if you guys got some figures on that from you guys, Johan? Have you guys got some figures of macadamian yield?
No, not yet. Still pretty much working on it, as I said. But very, very happy farmers, again saying, very happy plant. But I can't say in terms of yields, no, not yet. Still busy with a few trials in Pongola. And then also in the Lowveld, Malalaan area.
And now there's Chappie in Pangeni there as well. So that'll be a good
and you were mentioning Johan Nell's name. I've got my Nelspruit agent is on this webinar as well. He'll pick that up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can tell him I'm saying how's it, man. He's got about 40, at the time he had about 45 hives on his property from me. So yeah, it's cool.
Great.
And he's got so yeah, man. One of the things we actually did is we got hold of we actually did a couple of presentations for the Macadamian Association itself about 8, 9 years ago with Johan. And we had a few guys take us up at that time. But interestingly enough, you talk about how guys are like, oh, but is it is it empirical and can you prove it and all this sort of stuff. We had the same issues with the bees, right? When we entered the Macadamians Association, Growers Association, and they're like, even beekeepers, man, that had been involved with beekeeping for years, turn around and used to say to me, you don't get any honey from macadamians. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean that you can't do pollination, and then we went in there and we did this experiment with Jan the first year. And he said, no, we got a really good result. We got extra, as I say, he had about 12 to 15% extra yield on his crop that year without doing anything different, just from the bees. So as I say, I can imagine you're going to probably at least get a 10 to 15% from the GuanoBoost as well. And we got some honey. It wasn't a lot of honey because they're not that great. They're not that prolific. But if we're talking about, even if it's 20%, 10% from bees, 10% from GuanoBoost, and I'm just sort of really on because there are some other variables, right? But even if it is just 10% from between the two, from both sides of our contributions, from bees and GuanoBoost, man, you can imagine what they can do to a guy who you know, if you're producing nuts and you're getting, say, 5 tons, now all of a sudden you've got 6 tons. That's a huge difference.
Massive.
That's a massive difference in production, man. You know, I mean, that covers, what does that cover for you in a farming, in a farmer's bottom line? You know what I mean? And where the input is negligible, in my opinion, between what you've said about GuanoBoost and the cost of GuanoBoost for the benefit. And we're not even talking about the indirect benefits here. You know, we're talking about direct benefits. You know, the cost of implementation for you guys with GuanoBoost is negligible, and the same with bees, with the beekeeping. But the benefits, on the other hand, are exponential. You know, because that regenerative curve, like you talked about, is just going to increase and improve the yield, the soil itself, so that the following years is going to be, and it's going to compound, and then the bees are just going to be able to assist in that, and add to that just just because it's a numbers game, you know, just a numbers game, which is just phenomenal. So yeah, awesome, guys. I don't know if there's any final questions. Tanya, you've got any final words there?
I just want to say to you, and I'm really excited about your podcast coming up, and you must keep in touch. We can enlighten my tribe even more about GuanoBoost and the benefits thereof in regenerative farming. And it seems like these podcast talks will be very informative and give a lot of information that a lot of people maybe don't have. So stay in contact, send them over to me, and we can put them on the group that people can listen to them. And we gladly support you. And I want to thank you for being on the call, and for Brendan and for Odette, everybody from GuanoBoost, for attending this meeting and coming to share your journey and your product with us. Very excited for the future, and to see how just my little small homestead is going to change with the benefit of GuanoBoost. So thank you very much. And thank you for my co-host, Warwick, and all the people here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, guys. It's been great to have you. I don't know if Brendan, did you finish your story about the bees and the max and GuanoBoost?
Look, we haven't started. There, we haven't started the trial with the GuanoBoost yet. That'll be starting soon. Okay. So as soon as we've had some time with that, we'll definitely do that. And I will be interviewing the farmer as soon as he's ready to chat about everything. But I do have some photos of the bee hotel I can send around.
Yeah, please
do that.
Yeah, if you can share that with us, send it via Tanya, and then we can post that on both our tribe pages and groups and stuff like that.
Sure. And, I'll put my cell number on the chat, and you're welcome to message me, and I'll send those photos.
Brilliant.
All right, lekker, guys.
Thanks,
okay,
guys.
That's brilliant, eh?
Great talk. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
It was super talk. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, guys. All right, take it easy. Have a great weekend. And this is Warwick and Tanya and Johan.
Take care, guys. Bye now.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers,
Uncle Jock.
Cheers, Robert. Cheers, Andrew.
It's nice seeing you guys again. See you next week.
Ciao, ciao.